You know, I said to her the other night, I said, you know, obviously this is going to be a packed room on Friday when we talk, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of fans. I'm guessing I see a fan right there. And I said, but this being South by, I said, Gaga, I'm sure there'll be a few skeptics in the room. And she was like, a few? I expect they're all going to hate me. And I said, oh, come on now. But obviously that's not the case. But there is and this is nothing new. This is a story that's been sort of hounding South by for 5 to 10 years now. This increasing tendency of superstars to swoop in here to Austin for 48 hours, and whether it's Samsung or T-Mobile or a chip company footing the bill. There obviously there's griping about that, and what are your? And initially there was some comment when the word first came out that you were going to be here with Doritos, and then I know that the majority of the proceeds are going to go to the foundation, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes. They made quite an amazing donation to the Born This Way Foundation, Doritos, and we're actually extremely grateful. But, to be completely honest, whoever is writing or saying all of those things, you don't know fuck about the state of the music industry. And, I think it's also about how the artist chooses to engage in these sorts of relationships. What's the type of relationship? What's the philosophy behind the collaboration? Do you have things in common? Do you not? When you come to do the performance, how much time do you put into it? Do you really care about the show? Or are you just taking a check and showing up? Are you only coming to Austin for the press? Or do you want to have a real connection with the fans? I mean, the best thing that happened last night is I came off the stage. I was covered in paint, vomit. We did live art during this show, and the CEO of Frito-Lay came in with all her kids and was like, that was so brilliant, and she was crying.
There you go.
And I'm standing there, I'm like, oh, thank you. And my publicist walks in, I'm like, did you quit in the middle of the show? And he's like, no, it was amazing. And it's because that, sensationalized headlines, I listen to the internet very closely. I work with Salesforce, I work with Lair. My team and I have our ear to the ground all the time about how people are talking about what we're creating, how the information is getting out to the public, what the messaging is. And, watching the fans have an experience with me, and then having Doritos support that to its core, not telling me how to do the show, what should be like, or putting chains around my neck. They just said, we just want to support you and having a great experience at South by. We want to help your foundation, and we want to help spread the message. How do we do that? And they came up with bold bravery, and it all came together. And I think that what is the most important thing is that we remember that all of these things that people are saying, it's just to inspire clicks to their websites, more visits, right? And they want to be the first person to say the thing that everybody reads, right? But the truth is that without sponsorships, without these companies coming together to help us, we won't have any more artists in Austin. We won't have any festivals because record labels don't have any fucking money.
In fact, you were telling me the other night that even you are having to, there's things that you want to do event-wise, the Art Pop launch event in Brooklyn, which was essentially you on.
I paid for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because, I just, at the end of the day, I said this last night on stage, it's like, nobody's going to remember what you tweeted when you die. Nobody's going to remember your web content for the week. What's going to be remembered is those magical moments that you have helped to create, bringing artists and the artistic community together to breed the compassion and the love that comes with creating. And that's why I've been talking so much about creative rebellion, because it's like, what are we? What are we as an industry if we are not telling our artists to be creative? What are we? What are we doing? What's happening? Why? Why is it a prison? And why are we allowing it to be a prison? Every person in here should take pride in swining their nose up at anyone that would say, ugh, Doritos, Lady Gaga, Samsung, Jay-Z. Why shouldn't someone in Austin have the chance to see Jay-Z up close and personal? Why?
As long, I completely agree, as long as they're out there seeing those emerging artists who deserve to be seen as well.
Yes, and what we can do is, as a group and as a unit, I brought my friends from New York who are young bands still. They're not that young, they've been doing it for like 15 years. But we're all young bands. I brought them with me, they opened the show for me. I brought them on stage with me during applause. All the artists that come here and all the corporations that come here, you can still make an effort to integrate new emerging acts and talent into your shows. So you can bring the two things together. Use the acts that are bigger to shine the light on the new ones and bring people together. Art pop.
Absolutely. So there's a few things I want to talk to you about, but in terms of just sort of real, like, immediately upcoming things, this show was quite specific to Austin and to South by. You've got a string of shows coming up for all of us New Yorkers, something very special at the iconic Roseland Ballroom, a place I've seen many amazing shows, and sadly is closing down very soon. How did that come about, you playing the last shows at Roseland, and sort of what does that mean to you?
My gosh, it means everything to me. I mean, I'm so excited, and I started out playing in small clubs and bars. I mean, Roseland's not that small, actually, in comparison to where I started playing out. My first show was at the Bitter End in New York when I was 15.
A lot smaller than Stubbs.
A lot smaller than Stubbs, yeah. It's a wonderful experience, and it was Arthur Fogel. Arthur Fogel called me, and he said, Roseland is closing. We want you to, close it out. What do you think about that? I said, this is great. And he said, do you want to do this many shows or this many shows? And he said, or you could do 8 shows in a row and it'd be the most shows anyone's ever done at Roseland. And I said, okay, let's do it, whatever.
Sounds good.
Let's go for it.
I bet you can't reveal too much about the shows, but I understand there's going to be some New York-themed aspects to the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from New York.
Right. Number one.
I'm pretty New York themed to my core.
Yeah.
So, the show. I always tell people, we rehearse over and over. We put a show together, and then, we press play and the lights come up, and I can't promise anything. I don't know what's going to happen. It's like I just go into a total trance, and as long as I'm in that place, I know it will be great.
Right.